JB here, August 1st, 2024. Welcome to the new month. Gonna talk about the market, some of the names I'm looking at, and go from there. But what a impressive rally yesterday. Markets gapped higher at the open, traded higher into the Fed meeting. The statement came out kind of in line, and then Powell was able to walk that tightrope, right? Between coming off too dovish or too hawkish and still leaving some room for his speech at Jackson Hole and kind of leaving it open. Although it's pretty much baked in that they're going to cut rates at least 0.25% in September. And pretty much now you have the market almost pricing in 3 rate cuts. I think it's 90% for 2 cuts by December, and then there's a 10% probability that's being priced in that there'll be 3 cuts. And I put it on the watch list, kind of, I wouldn't call it funny, but it seems like this time last year, even before that, uh, the market was pricing in like 3 or 4 cuts already. That's what should have already happened, and the market just kept pushing it out. And despite that, we've hit all-time highs only a couple of weeks ago. So that the fact that the market's able to digest that, I think that's a good thing. So yesterday afternoon, the market looked great. Then 3:30, we had a pull. I don't know if it was the news, in the Middle East. You have more of the assassinations and the geopolitical tensions, or there were some comments from Powell, maybe around the economy, and you saw small caps which hit the 228 level, the IWM, and then just gave it all back into the close. Although they still closed up 0.8%. So leave some room for upside. So 555 key spot here on the SPY. See if we can uh, if we retest that today, that'd be some resistance, maybe some chop here. And then after the close today, we have earnings from Apple, Amazon. Um, let's see here. I didn't even have who else is left after the close. Do I have it up here? Hang on a second, folks. Sorry, I'm just trying to get it. Oh, Intel. You got Coin, Roku, Square. I mean, two of my names. You have Cloud, Cloudflare, Booking.com, Priceline, Melly. A lot of names. Dash, Twilio. So it will be a very active after-hours session. There's a slew of companies reporting. Let's see here. How many is reporting after the close? 212 companies reporting after the close today. So impressive. So anyway, that bull flag still setting up on the IWM. So up to 228. What were we at? 228, 53 yesterday. Why do I have that up there? So still have a nice little bull flag. All right. So individual names. So Fiverr, which is a name I've talked about many times over the years. I think is a great growth story. And I think it was down here when I first started looking at Fiverr back during the COVID days as a kind of play in the gig economy, the state work from home situation. The stock took off. I think it went all the way up to 350 or so. And there it is all the way back down. I think broke under 20 in May, bounced back up to 26 or so, and then was just chopping around to earnings. I just kind of took my eyes off it. I didn't realize reporting earnings yesterday morning. And sure enough, what do? They report a kind of a Goldilocks earnings, right? Great beat, a raise. They also announced that they completed their $100 million stock buyback. They announced an acquisition and just kind of like the perfect kind of ingredients for a rally. This morning, you have Needham, well, actually came out after the close yesterday, reiterating their 35. Did they raise their price target? Just reiterating their buy and $36 price target. And then you also have MKM. I think they are, right? Roth, MKM raising their price target is 32 from 29, keeps a buy rating. I would love to see it $30 before the end of the week. I don't know if that'll be the case, especially considering the stock was up nearly 19% yesterday. Maybe some chop here today. It hit 27 at 3 o'clock yesterday and then gave $1 of it back, but still strong day. I think it heads up near $30 in the coming days. So I added some August spec calls. I was looking at the 25s. It's tough. There's only monthlies, and the increments on strikes will make it difficult to find a decent strike. So I got those kind of as a spec call play. Those got up to more than a double. I closed some out to cover some costs. And then I went and got some September strikes. I'll probably look to close some of the September strikes depending on what the stock does here at the open. And then I'll hold both into tomorrow at least, and maybe going forward, unless it really starts to rally today. But really love this story. Some of it was sold off because of as AI started to gain more prominence, people thought a company like Fiverr would be supplanted by AI, right? So some of the the gigs they have on their platform require people to write papers or do research or create content, things like that. And now you have Chat GPT and all these other AI solutions that might be able to do it for you. But I think on the flip side, you need to have a platform that is able to utilize AI. You go request a gig on someone to be able to do something for you, create a AI image or photo, or help you automate some things that you need to do. So I think that's kind of a tailwind for them. So not only is it not a headwind, I think it's gonna be continue to be a tailwind for Fiverr. I think it heads over $30 the coming days. So that's the talk there. And not only that, they talked about on their conference call around their capital, how much they're throwing off some great cash flow. They're looking to return that to shareholders via stock buybacks. They just completed the $100 million buyback. I would not be surprised to see another release with a share buyback authorization in the next couple weeks. That's Fiverr. Square, Block, and Roku report after the close today. A little disappointing to see Roku's barely up here today. It's at 58.90, considering it got absolutely pummeled. It was $62 when Google reported earnings, and it got absolutely pummeled down to $56 on concerns over ad spend. And some, as it's funny, Roku, it's the bears like to paint whatever story is convenient for them. So if Roku misses on hardware sales, and to me, Roku's not a hardware company anymore, but they'll cite that as a reason that the stock is a sell, right? And then now it's the ad side, right? Oh, Google reported a bad. Oh well, there's some concerns with the ad spend, and that ties right into Roku when they sell it off. It just Anyway, so I think it's a setup for a nice move to the upside. They're going to report a beat and raise, strong quarter. The last quarter this year, if you go to 2023, the stock closed up 30%. I would love to see it close up 30% or at least start a move to the upside. Really love the Roku setup. And then if you look at Block, a lot of concerns around Block is competitors and competitive concerns. You would think the PayPal earnings this week would alleviate some of that, but that hasn't been the case and still kind of struggled. Actually did a little better yesterday, but would like to see that one another strong beat and raise. And it's had some moves on earnings 20-30%. So especially setting up right near 52-week lows, I think Square is setting up for a move to the upside. So those are the two names. iRobot, I was talking about adding some more strikes on a break over 12. It did it at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and then just proceeded to sell off after 3 o'clock all the way back down to 1160 and then closing 1179. Like this name, they report earnings next week. 1450 is a key spot on that one. VKTX, in turn, not much to say about those two names. The good thing about VKTX, it's holding the 50-day moving average. I guess that's a good thing. It hasn't really been over the 50 days since back in the middle of May. So once I think that gets some buyers, hopefully that starts to take off. And then always the prospect of potential M&A. I was talking about getting Western Digital calls at the start of the week for earnings Wednesday after the close. It's kind of hasn't performed too well, and even it did pull back and it rallied yesterday, but still hadn't recouped the losses from the start of the week. Then they reported earnings and they posted a great quarter beat and raise. It's getting analyst upgrades this morning. The stock is still down in the pre-market. So I'll be watching. Could be a name that has some type of earnings reversal to the upside back maybe 66 or so, or maybe even 70 at the end of the week. So I might look to get some strikes on Western Digital. Broadcom, I had posted on the watch list yesterday. I'd gotten out my puts, thankfully, and I was actually looking for some spec calls to play for upside. And sure enough, was the stock too rallies nearly 12%. Depending on what things shake out here today, it's another name I might look for some spec calls if the market holds its footing here today. And then last but not least is WW. They reported earnings this morning. A miss on the revenue side, a beat on the EPS side, and then they announced restructuring. They're looking to save about $100 million over the next year. Declines in membership, and typically they have declines in membership as the year progresses. Anyways, it's very cyclical, so they'll have a boost in memberships in the first quarter when they report, and then as people they get off the New Year's resolutions with weight loss and what have you, then their memberships start to decline as the year progresses. That's why when they had a year-over-year increase back in second quarter of a year ago, I thought that was a big deal, but it turned out not to be the case. I'm watching if it starts to find a bid and it gets to 125, 130, that could be the sign that maybe the bottom's in and this restructuring is the start of a new leg to the upside. But other than that, I'll probably just continue to hold my spec calls. But if I do I'm looking out the January 26s, and I know it sounds crazy, but this is a name that could be, it's a hero zero. So if it's a zero, okay, that's fine. But if it's a hero, some of the crazy spec calls could really pay out. Like, I'm possibly the January 26 $4 strikes, right? So that's something I might look at, as crazy as that sounds. And the frustrating thing is if it doesn't go the right way, you're gonna be staring at those calls for for a long time if you can't sell them. So that's what makes it frustrating. That's about it, folks. Let's have a great day. I'll be back on audio later. Rock and roll.